Potentially bad news, I'm afraid. Potentially bad news. While I was taking this brush and cleaning around the back and the front of this coil, I wasn't even anywhere near that coil as far as the wiring goes. Well, here I am brushing out the rust and whatever accumulated dirt and dust was in there, and what falls out? A piece of wire, a length of coil wire. You have got to be kidding me. Look at that. Oh. Well, let us not panic quite yet. I don't believe that happened to me. Oh, I don't even know where it came from. I mean, everything is sealed up underneath this wax here. Yet, there it is. You cannot refute the facts. A piece of wire has been broken out of there, or came out of there somehow. Let's get the multimeter out and check our coil and see if it's still good. 1,450 ohms. In your face, Murphy! Folks, allow me to dazzle you with my shadow meter footwork. This is the one that came on the radio. And as you can see, part of the plastic was broken off and the wires were exposed, and I went ahead and put some liquid tape on there to make it stronger. And it moved, I got it so where it would move back and forth fairly easy. It moves from front to rear. You can almost do it one-handed anymore. I see she just slides back and forth. Anyway, I remember when we did the Philco 630B, we had to magnetize a metal ring because it had lost all of its magnetism. The metal ring was attached to the coil on the shadow meter. And I had to take a magnet, run around and around and around until finally it got its magnetism back. And when it did, the little vein that was down in there moved back and forth real good. Prior to that, it wouldn't move at all. So, I'm saying, maybe this thing has a metal ring on it also. But I couldn't find one. And I don't know. If you go back and look at the Philco 630B, 1937 630B, video number 27, you'll see what I'm talking about. Video number 27. And there was no ring here at all. So that idea, I kind of went out the window. I said, well, what do we do? I've got to get this thing to work. It's not working. Whenever you put juice to it, it does not make the vein go back and forth. But like I said, this is the old one. Didn't have a vein anyway. But this one here, this is the one that was sent to me. And lo and behold, what do we see down here in the back? Let me show you something. Look what popped out of there. Sure enough, there is a metal ring. Did you see it fall back in there? Look at that metal ring right there. There she be, right there. That metal ring. It's just this goes all the way around, and it has an opening where the two ends come together. They don't come all the way together. There's an opening there. And there it is. That's what I've been looking for. So I went back over here to this one. And I said, well, where is it? Well, no wonder I couldn't see it. It was underneath all this yellow stuff here that ran all the way around here. Well, from me messing around with this one here, it didn't have much of that yellow stuff on it. And I just never noticed it. And then finally, all of a sudden, the ring just fell out when I was working on it. I said, oh my gosh, there's the ring I've been looking for. How about that? Well, almost no magnetism on that ring, folks. Just like the one in the Philco 630B. And we're going to have to do the same exact procedure. We're going to have to... Now, I could magnetize the one on the 630B without having to remove it from the shadow meter. Here, I'm going to have to remove it. I can't get to it. So all we have to do, it's a piece of cake, is I'm going to go ahead and bend these 4 tabs. So I'm going to bend 2 of the tabs straight up and the other 2 just barely to where I can remove this thing here. And then the ring should come off. And this entire coil mechanism should come off too. I'll be able to clean down inside there so it'll move back and forth, and spin around a little bit better. Now let's see if I can do that without breaking those tabs off. But even if I do, I have a backup, a plan B. It would make life miserable to try to get it back right. But there is a plan B, however remote it may look. So we'll go ahead and be very careful, see what I can do. I need to get this light socket holder off here, off this plate, then the ring. In order to lift little tiny tabs like this, you have to be very careful and you have to go very, very slow. You don't want to generate any heat in the bending at all, and it will generate. You know, sometimes you say, well, how can it generate heat? It does, believe me. And then they get even weaker than they already are. Remember, this stuff is probably suffering from metal fatigue from all these years. Anyway, the way I do it is I take a pair of flush cutters, little flush cutters, smaller the better actually. I just kind of get underneath the lip there, like so, and then one on this edge and one on right on the lip of that thing. Then I just kind of roll it up a little bit. Once I roll it up, then I go ahead and take a pair of duck-bill pliers with no teeth on them and just kind of straighten them babies out. You don't want to be using pliers with teeth on them. Don't use teeth on these things. This is very delicate. I think this metal, most of this metal is aluminum if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Anyway, you go ahead and straighten out these two. That's the way I do it, you know, the farthest away from the light itself. And then the other two I only took up and bent up just a little ways. You see, let me see if I can get it. See, I didn't bend them all the way. Let me see if I can get a light over here. For some reason it's getting a little blurry. Let me see what we can do here. See if I can help. She just don't want to focus too well, I guess, because it's that black metal. Anyway, the two closest to the light socket are only bent up about, oh, maybe 2/3 of the way. Okay, and the two tabs farthest. Let me see if I can zoom in. Maybe that's what I need to do. Zoom in. Yeah, there we go. That makes life a whole lot easier. See, the two these two by my finger are bent straight up. Okay, and the other two are only bent about, oh, maybe 3/4. You can see it right there, about 3/4. Now all I have to do is lift it up off of these two tabs right here and then slip it off the 3/4 ones. Not too difficult, really. Well, here's that backing plate removed, and as soon as I removed it, this little thing here, I could see it being held between this tab on the top and there's one on the bottom also. Okay, little tab there, and they hold this round disc, and inside of this round disc, of course, is the little tab, the little vane that blocks the light. It works off magnetism. It goes left and right. It blocks the light that comes through this back hole here. The light shines through the back hole right there and onto the in this case onto the back of the dial plate, and then this thing moves left and right and blocks that light, and it makes it look like, you know, the light's coming in or going out by the spinning of this little vane right here. Pretty cool, huh? Works off magnetism, but boy, you got to be real careful with that. So I'm going to set that up here to the side, get that out of my way. I don't want anything to happen to that. All right, the next thing, after I pulled off the coil, actually the ring came off first. You know, it was in the coil thing like so, down there like that, and then that came off, and then I took the coil off, and when I took the coil off, that's when I found out that these are spring clips. There was two spring clips down there between the inside of the coil housing and the metal thing right here. See that? See this this metal barrel right there? See that sunken area right there? There's a sunken area here, and there's one on the other side as well. Those spring clips fit down in those sunken areas just like that. Okay, just like that, and they raised, they're curved. Okay, so when you slide the coil onto the barrel, those spring clips, you know, they're pushing upward, and then you have to kind of collapse them down and get that coil wheel on there, and then they push back up and hold it in place. And there's a reason for that. You know, once the coil gets in there and you get it set and the vane is working and everything and your shadow meter is functioning, the last thing you need is the speaker vibration in the cabinet to cause this thing, you know, to go back this way or forward or rotate left or right because of the vibration. So these spring clips push up and keep that from happening. Not a bad idea. And I don't think I'm going to put very much grease on there, just maybe a very, very, very light coat, which will enable me to get it slid over this first. Anyway, everything has been cleaned with the alcohol. Now what I need to do is take a magnet. And I need to take that magnet. I have a telescopic magnet. I'm going to go around here like this. I'm going to go around here like this. I'm going to do that about 7 or 8 times. And what I'm going to try to do is remagnetize this thing. So let's see what the results are when I get done with that. Alright, she's been remagnetized. I used this little telescopic thing. It's got a really powerful magnet on the end, and I just, like I said, I just went around and around and around. I did that I think 8 or 9 times. And I've generated a little bit of magnetism in there. It'll hold that paper clip with no problem now, whereas in the beginning it wouldn't hold anything. See there? I think that's about all we're going to get out of that little tiny piece of metal. You know, it's not something that's going to pick up a chunk of metal. It's going to have so much magnetism. It's not. It only needs a little bit, and I think that's going to be plenty. See, it holds that paper clip in there. Now let's see if we can't put some wires on this thing and get it back together. This ring would never permanently stay down in there if I took a couple of drops of super glue and just put them down in there. That's just not going to work. Not the right glue for this job. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of this JV Quick. Mix up just a little bit, not very much at all. And I'm just going to put maybe a dab there, a dab there, and a dab there. Just enough to hold that baby in. That's all it's going to take. I took my pocket knife, the point of my pocket knife, and I scratched 3 rough areas into the plastic. There, there, and there. Give it, a little better gripping surface. So now what I'm going to do, and I have to be careful not to get any of this glue down on the, you don't want to get any of the glue down on the inside here. You just want it on the outside. So we'll just put a little bit of dab right there, all the way up against the wall. And then we'll just put another little dab right on that rough spot there, right up against the wall. Then we'll put another little dab right up here, right up against the wall, away from that center area. That's all it's going to take. We don't need a whole lot. Now we'll go ahead and take our ring that's been magnetized, stick it down in there. There she goes. Just like that. Now, was that a piece of cake or was that a piece of cake? Nothing to it. Let me go ahead and wipe this screwdriver off. I want to press down a little bit with the tip of it to make sure it's down in there nice and flat. It is, it is, it is. Appears to be. I don't see any movement. Wipe off any excess. This is something you have to do in a quiet room, away from the kids, away from the dogs, away from everybody, Okay, now let's just see if that hardens and it stays in place before we do anything else. Well, that's it, gents. She's all back together. I still have to put the connector, remove the connector from these 2 wires and put them on here. I'll get to that next. I kind of like it because the little vein that was down there is now centered. Let's see if I can figure out how to. There we go. I think you can see it. See a little vein down in there? It's now centered. Before it wasn't centered, and when I move it back and forth, she vibrates back into the center position. Now, it didn't do that before. Okay? Let's see if I can show you a little better. Just move this. See, she goes right back to the center, and that's what we want. We want that little vein to be centered when it's idle, when there's no voltage or current being applied to that coil or that magnet back there. All right, so far so good. Of course, there's no guarantees it's going to work when we're done, but I remember from the one I worked on the 630B, it had about the same effect. Once I got done working on it, it came back pretty much into the center, right where it wanted to be, whereas previously it did not. Folks, it is time to let the rubber meet the road. I've got 2 wires connected to the 2 gator wires connected to the plug, and I've got one wire connected to the negative to a 9-volt battery. I'm going to take the other one, I'm going to touch the positive. I'm going to touch the positive, and then we're going to watch this vane inside this shadow meter. Now what I want the vane to kind of go over and kind of lock to one side. It can jitter a little bit once it gets there. But what we don't want is that thing to be going, you know, like that, you know. That sucks. If it does that, I've got to adjust it. Adjust the coil in and out or left and right. And hopefully stop that, you know, that fluttering. We don't want that. Otherwise, that's what you're going to get on your shadow meter on the radio. When you start tuning in stations, you know, you're going to see that light start to flutter back and forth, you know, like that. That's no good. All right, here we go. Let's see if I can get a good focus on there. All right, I think I can see it. Here we go. Touch. Oh, she's fluttering away. See that thing fluttering? Yeah, we don't want that. We just want it to kind of go over to one side and sort of stay there. Well, let me do an adjustment on it. I have adjusted it just, you know, in and out, left and right to the best of my ability. I've done the very best I can. Now there is a slight flutter when it gets over to one side, which I find acceptable. Now watch what happens here. Okay, see it? It goes over to one side, does a little bit of flutter, and then stabilizes out. Try it again here. That's a pretty thin piece of metal. It doesn't. What I'm doing now, you have to understand, in the radio, it's going to be a slow draw of current through it. What I'm doing right here is just banging it with current out of that battery. So just to kind of give you an idea, let's try it again. This will kind of give us an idea, though. It's just all I'm doing right now is just saying, hey, look, it's working. You know, there it is. Okay, it's all the way over. It's pretty much blocked the light. See? All right. What I'm going to do is call this shadow meter rebuilt and operational. And now the next time you see it, I'll have it in the radio. One more thing, I still have to put a couple of wires in these two holes right here. Next, you can see them there. It's kind of hard, it's all dark. But anyway, we're going to put a couple more wires, and they're going to go up to the dial light. Now one of those wires will go to ground, which will be here, and the other one will go through the hole here and connect to the center of the bulb, okay? Make sure that the wire that comes from ground here goes to the right pin that connects into the female side of the plug that goes to ground. You don't want to hook the hot side of the wire coming from the chassis through the wrong pin that you didn't check out which pin went to ground, which pin didn't. You don't want the hot part to come through the pin and go straight to ground. We don't want that. That would burn up the coil in the power transformer. You understand that? So make sure that whatever pin you select here to go to ground on your light socket is the ground pin on the female plug, the female side of the plug. Ground to ground, hot to hot. Make sure you do that. Otherwise you're going to have power running straight to ground, fry out that transformer winding. That's it right now. And oh, by the way you check that is with a multimeter. You make sure it's good, okay? If you don't know how to do it, get somebody to help you. That's very critical. Otherwise you'll wipe out a winding you don't want to wipe out. That's it for now, folks. I appreciate everybody watching. Hopefully we all learned something. I know I did. You know, it's always good for me to learn something along with you at the same time. It's kind of neat. Now I will do one more thing. I'm going to take some clear nail polish and cover that bare metal on that ring there. I want to prevent it from rusting. So I'll slip a little, clear nail polish up in there. That's no problem. We can do that. Piece of cake. All right. Until next time. This is John.